you're unsure of what to focus on because you've been given a lot of information. And that happens to all of us, and sometimes I do that too. But one of the things that I learned as an instructor, and I did it in my presentations when I used to present fashion collections to buyers, is how you present information, the order in which you present it, can reduce that overwhelmed feeling and that not knowing what you need to do next if you're really conscious of how you present your information. So I use something called pattern disruption. So here we go. Let's think of like a pattern. You know, when you're a kid, you learn about patterns. And so you might have A, B, A, B, A, B, right? That would be a pattern. So I might tell you, do this, don't do that. Do this and don't do that. Or worse is when there's no pattern at all. And it's just simply A. Do this, and this. And then after a while, you get information overload. So when I started teaching, I really thought about how I just naturally put together my presentations as a fashion designer, presenting to buyers, and what were the presentations that I did that really went over well, and I accomplished what I was looking to accomplish. And what I ended up discovering is I always used a pattern disruption. So let me tell you what I mean by that. So a pattern disruption is when you do something like A, B. And I find 3 A's is really the key, because it is so easy for us as humans to hold 3 bits of information. That's why a lot of telephone numbers start off with 3 digits, or Social Security starts off with 3 digits. They're very easy to understand 3. You don't get that overwhelmed. You can hold it in your short-term memory. When you get beyond that, then it depends on a lot of different factors: who you are, how good your memory is, how much you practice it, whether or not you ate breakfast that day, or you're thirsty and dehydrated. A lot of different factors that can come into play. So I like to stick with 3. And I like to give 3 bits of information, but the pattern disruption, B, that is the gold. That's what I want them to really remember. So I don't come at my presentations as, boom, here's the most important thing for you to remember. I give them a warm up. Here's a little bit of information. Now you've held that in your mind. Now I'm going to break it up. So let me give you an example of this. So let's say I'm going to give you 3 words, and then I'm going to give you a pattern disruption. And that's the part that you're going to remember most. It's the part that's going to resonate when you're done. So for example, I could say, don't stress, worry, or hide, but do breathe. Breathe is the message. That's what I want you to know. The first 3, you held them in your short-term memory until I said, but do breathe. And I emphasize that one. And so therefore, you remember it more. If I would have just said, hey, the important thing is to breathe, it wouldn't have stuck as much, because you wouldn't have had that buildup of okay, this is what I'm not supposed to do. Breathe. Oh man, that's so much easier to remember one thing than it is to remember 3 things. Likewise, if I switch that around and if I say, breathe, laugh, talk, but don't stress. Your message that you're going to go away with is to not stress. So there you go. That's how you can use pattern disruptions. And I don't only just use them when I'm teaching or coaching or putting together a presentation. I use them with myself. So if I need to give myself a message, then that's something that I'll do. So whatever that message is today. So perhaps I'm getting ready to write a LinkedIn post. And I open up my screen. I normally do them in Word, and it's blank. I start with 0 text on the page. And so if I'm feeling like, I'm not so sure, the white page is very overwhelming. And then I can give myself 3 things that I don't want to do and 1 thing I do want to do. So it might be, don't think and don't worry and don't plan. All you got to do is type. And if I start putting my fingers on and I start typing, yeah, I'm going to probably need to edit later on, but it's much easier to start my flow from that point of view. So that's one way that I use it in my personal life, but it's especially helpful when you're communicating information to other people.